Welcome back to the deep dive. We're diving deep this time into digital transformations.
Oh, always a hot topic.
Yeah, and we're going to focus on a case study for episode 47 of The Forge of Unicorns by Michele Bressoni.
Oh, yeah, Mike Bressoni. I love his stuff.
Yeah, and you all really wanted us to break down this episode.
Yeah, tons of requests for this one.
Especially that final message from the PwC auditors looking back at a company's digital transformation.
Right. That really seemed to resonate, especially with folks in private equity, venture capital.
Oh, and C-suite folks. Yeah, definitely.
Sure.
So let's jump right in. What really struck me was how Bressoni sets this up. The company's IT department.
Oh, talk about a mess.
Totally. Just a chaotic mess. Practically irrelevant.
Yeah, and they were facing, declining market trust and struggling with these old business models.
And they couldn't even measure success. But then, get this. After this transformation, their stock surged 300%.
Yeah, I mean, you can't argue with results like that.
It's crazy, right? What could possibly spark that kind of change? Was it just about new technology?
Nah, it's way deeper than that. They implemented this, well, it's kind of unique, actually, a two-layered, behaviorally driven system of OKRs.
OKRs, okay. So not just setting goals, right? It's more about
It's woven into how teams work, how they behave.
So it's cultural, changing the work culture rather than just checking boxes on performance reviews.
Bingo. It's connecting those daily actions to the big picture, creating a culture of improvement.
Gotcha. Accountability too, right?
Absolutely. And that's what really blew the PwC auditors away.
Really?
Oh, yeah. They came in expecting the usual, misalignment and surface level metric.
The usual song and dance.
Exactly. But they found the system where every technical effort was tied to a strategic objective.
Wow, that's impressive. But how did they measure that connection? Were there tools, specific metrics?
Well, one thing that stood out was their use of a corporate level DORA metric.
DORA, okay. Refresh my memory on that one.
Right. So DORA stands for DevOps Research and Assessment. It's all about measuring how software teams perform.
Oh, right. I remember.
How often they deploy, how fast they implement changes, how often those changes fail.
And how long it takes to recover from failures. Yep. So they were using this to, gauge how efficiently their top teams were working?
Precisely. They were focusing on their elite teams, the ones at the top of their game.
But does that really show the success of the whole company? I mean, focusing only on the best, maybe that doesn't tell the whole story.
It's a valid point, but here's where it gets really interesting. PwC found a direct link between the efficiency of these top teams and the overall efficiency of the products and services offered by the company.
So they were raising the bar for everyone by focusing on the top performers.
You got it. And it wasn't just about turning out code faster. They were delivering value to customers more efficiently, which impacted their financial success.
Ah, so that's what caught the auditor's eyes. Not just internal improvements, but actual benefits for customers?
Right, tangible results.
But how do they tie those technical improvements to the company's financials? Were they just assuming a connection, or was there something more concrete?
They paired their OKRs with, hard numbers, financial metrics.
Ah, so they could actually see how their efficiency was impacting their bottom line.
Created this cycle of improvement. Remember, they were in a bad spot initially. Declining trust, outdated models, the whole 9 yards.
Right, Bressoni didn't sugarcoat it. But then they implemented this system, connecting everything, and boom, a total turnaround.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable. And get this, the PwC auditors actually said, the way OKRs have been engineered here ensures they aren't just a governance mechanism, they are a continuous performance accelerator.
So it was about growth and success, not just checking boxes.
It was a total paradigm shift for them. Really impressive.
We've talked about the 300% stock surge, but were there any other, concrete results from this whole transformation?
Oh, yeah, for sure. We need to dig into the specifics of what they actually accomplished.
Let's get into the nitty-gritty.
Absolutely. It's especially relevant to our listeners, private equity, venture capital, C-suite folks.
Because it shows how a strategic approach to IT can lead to amazing results. I'm all ears.
All right, well, let's dive in. Well, Bressoni says they managed to slash their operational costs.
By how much?
Double-digit percentages. Pretty significant.
Wow, that's huge. And that freed up capital, right, to reinvest.
Exactly. Back into innovation, fueling further growth.
That's the dream scenario, cutting costs while boosting innovation. But was it all smooth sailing? Any bumps in the road?
Well, I mean, there are always challenges in any large-scale transformation.
Right, sure.
But what's interesting here is that they didn't just, slash budgets randomly.
They had a plan.
They streamlined processes, eliminated redundancies, really optimized their resources.
Working smarter, not harder.
Exactly. Doing the right things with less, that's the key takeaway.
Right. And efficiency seems to be the core of their success. But let's go back to that stock surge for a second. 300%, that's massive. How much of that can we really attribute to this IT transformation? It's hard to say for sure, right? There are always other factors.
That's where the PwC audit is really insightful. They didn't just look at the numbers, they dug deep into the company's, processes, their culture, their decision-making.
A holistic view.
And they concluded that this transformation was a major, major driver behind that stock surge. It wasn't just a coincidence.
So they saw a clear connection between the transformation and the company's overall success.
Absolutely. They saw how this new way of approaching IT was, creating value everywhere, leading to better products, happier customers, and a much stronger financial position. They even projected further growth, like 20%.
Based on this transformation.
Yeah, based on how sustainable it is. And that kind of endorsement from PwC, well, it carries a lot of weight.
It does. It really does. But let's zoom out a bit. What does this mean for our listeners? The private equity firms, the VCs, the C-suite folks. What are the big takeaway here?
The biggest one is the need for really thorough due diligence, especially when it comes to IT, especially when it comes to digital transformation capabilities.
So really understanding the ins and outs of a company's IT, not just taking it at face value.
Exactly. It's about going beyond the surface level and really understanding their infrastructure, their digital strategy, how they're measuring their progress.
Don't just check the boxes, really dive deep.
Right. And it's about the people, too, not just the technology itself. Assess the team, the culture, the leadership. Are they adaptable? Are they driven by data? Are they committed to improvement?
So it's a human element, too, not just about the tech.
Absolutely. Which brings us back to that, that behaviorally driven OKR system they implemented. What made their approach so unique? What set them apart?
Yeah, tell me more about that.
Their OKRs weren't just about targets. They were about fostering certain behaviors aligned with their goals.
Like what kind of behaviors?
Collaboration, transparency, using data to make decisions, being willing to experiment and, learn from mistakes.
So they were embedding their desired culture into their goals. It wasn't just a top-down mandate, but a system to empower their teams.
You got it. And that's where the two-layered thing comes in. They had strategic OKRs set at the top, but then those goals were cascaded down to the teams.
So everyone had a part to play.
Exactly. And the teams were empowered to define their own tactical OKRs within that larger framework. It created a sense of ownership, accountability.
Up-down direction with bottom-up empowerment. It's an interesting balance.
And a key takeaway for leaders is that digital transformation is not just about plugging in some new software.
It's deeper than that.
It's about empowering people, fostering a culture of innovation, and creating a system for continuous improvement. Moving away from that old idea of IT as a cost center and seeing it as, a strategic driver.
It's a total shift in perspective, for sure.
And it's a reminder that this isn't a one-time project. It's a journey. This company didn't just install some new software and call it a day.
They embraced the whole process.
They created a system for learning, adapting, and constantly improving. They knew that failure is part of progress, and they weren't afraid to experiment.
It was about building a sustainable system for innovation.
Precisely. They built a framework for continuous evolution, allowing them to adapt and stay ahead of the curve. That's critical in today's world.
It's about building an agile organization, one that's adaptable and constantly evolving.
And the Forge of Unicorns gives us a really compelling roadmap for achieving that. It raises a question for our listeners. What would a 300% surge in your company's stock price mean?
That's a powerful thought. It challenges us to think bigger, to see the potential of a truly strategic approach to IT.
And it reminds us that complacency can be dangerous in this digital age. The companies that cling to the old ways, they risk being left behind.
This case study is a wake-up call.
For sure, it shows that the rewards can be huge for those willing to make the investment and put in the effort.
So how can our listeners get started? What are some concrete steps they can take to transform their approach to IT and really unlock its potential?
It can be tough, right? Especially for those big companies. They've got these systems in place. It's hard to change.
Yeah, where do you even begin?
You're right. It's not like flipping a switch. It's a journey. But like any journey, it starts with a single step.
So what's that first step?
I'd say take a good hard look at your current IT landscape. Do a real assessment.
See where you stand, right?
Exactly. Where are the bottlenecks? What processes are, totally outdated? What's holding back innovation?
Identify the team point.
Yep. And get your team involved. Talk to them. Understand their challenges. Make sure everyone feels like they're part of this.
Create that shared ownership.
Because at the end of the day, successful transformations, they're driven by people.
Not just technology.
Right. It's about changing mindsets, working together, creating a culture that embraces change.
A culture that's comfortable with continuous improvement.
Exactly. And that takes strong leadership.
Leaders who can, guide the way?
Leaders who have a clear vision for the future, who empower their teams, who champion innovation. They need to set the tone, remove roadblocks, celebrate wins.
So it's not just an IT project, it's a company-wide shift.
It's a total transformation, for sure, and it requires everyone to be on board.
And it's ongoing, right?
Absolutely. It's a continuous process. The companies that really thrive, they're the ones who are constantly learning, adapting, evolving.
The ones who aren't afraid to experiment.
Exactly. They learn from their mistakes and they keep pushing the boundaries.
This has been a really insightful deep dive, I have to say. We've learned a lot from Michelle Bersoni's The Forge of Unicorns, especially that message from the PwC auditors.
A message that really hit home with our audience.
Private equity, venture capital, C-suite folks, they all see the value in this.
It's about the power of it, right? When it's aligned with the goals of the business, when it's driven by innovation, when it's all about continuous improvement.
It's a whole new way of thinking about it.
The takeaway here is this. RTAW isn't just a support function anymore. It's a core part of business value.
And the companies that get that, they're the ones who are going to win.
They have a real competitive advantage, no doubt.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, we leave you with this. What are you going to do to make sure your organization is treating it as a strategic asset?
What changes can you make to embrace this digital transformation? How are you going to position your company for success in the years to come?
What would a 300% surge in your company's stock price mean to you? We hope this deep dive has given you some ideas, some inspiration to start your own journey.
Because the future belongs to those who are bold enough to embrace change, innovative enough to use technology effectively, and strategic enough to align their efforts with their goals.
Well said. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep pushing those boundaries.
Thanks for listening, and please remember to subscribe to The Forge of Unicorns to stay up to date with our latest episodes.